Uh, outside of those three transfers and not considering any of the alignments, because we'll get the conference realignments, because we'll get into that, what would you say is the bigger maybe story for the college football season as we get close to week 0 on August 24th?
So the biggest story. Um, I obviously Deion gets all the TV time because he's Deion. I think that is a big story. I think that's the one that gets a lot of viewership. If you just talk about Dion, one of my most viewed articles for College Football Dogs is me taking shots at Dion.
Ayo.
Um,
Of course.
oh yeah, but I think a big story is how he's going to do in this Big 12. The Big 12 is super competitive top to bottom this year.
Like so
You
we're gonna watch him have a shitty record. Like we're gonna watch them get all this hype and just fall flat. Am I wrong?
Do they win more than 4 games this year?
it,
Let's go. Let's
there,
go.
it's going to be tough.
Let's
Nebraska
Oh
go.
looks
my God.
great. I think they lose against Nebraska, and once they lose against Nebraska, I think they're just going to spiral. I mean, this is again going to be a dogfight of a conference that I don't think they're prepared
And
for.
that
I
would
think
be a
that,
huge confidence boost for Matt Rule and the Huskers. Like
oh,
that, like
seriously,
and like not confidence booster as far as like you weren't expected to beat them and like wow, look what you can do, but like just like team morale, like you get to go bash Deion Sanders, you get to talk shit, like you get to probably do a little extra in this game than uh other games are not going to pass, but
yeah,
so
exactly,
I think that'd
yeah,
be big. I think that'd be big for the Huskers and Will
definitely.
Compton.
I
This
think so as well, especially given, that new quarterback, Dylan Raiola, some confidence. He's an absolute
How many
stud.
Mahomes
Mahomes?
cosplayer.
Mahomes Jr. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
this Colorado team and everything surrounding it is very interesting to me because I liked Dion a lot. I think a lot of people did. I like the way that he talked, but he could back it up. And the
Yeah.
way that his son Shiloh can back it up. I really don't mind it. He's a very solid safety. I think he'll play at the next level. How good he'll be, I can't say, but I think he's a solid defender. As far as Shadur, I can't say that he's a very good quarterback. I haven't seen it. He's got the looks, he's got the vibes, but I actually haven't seen him play that well. I think Travis Hunter will end up making himself a good prospect in the NFL whenever he decides which side of the ball that he's going to play on.
Right.
But I was listening to the Dan Levitard show, catching up on it from when I was gone on vacation, and they had I'm sure you've heard this story, Alex. The reporter who's covering Colorado and everything that's been going on there, and there's been a lot of off the field hazing, and typically that happens in college football. It happens in most sports, and including the professionals. But you've got Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter and Shiloh. I believe he even said carrying around guns in the locker room, out of the locker room when they're out fishing. They're asking younger players to expose their naked bodies in the locker rooms. They've got a lot of other things. I can't even remember off the top of my head all the things
Why
that
is
are
it all
going
gotta be
on, but
gay shit, bro? What the fuck?
it's getting really weird. How do you think that information is finally going to get some national news attention? And do you think that that will affect how Colorado plays throughout the season, especially if something comes down from that?
So I actually asked Dion this at Big 12 Media Days, and I basically asked them, how do you cut out all the noise coming from the media? And essentially, what he said was, "Oh, I've been, doing this since 1985. I'm used to all the noise being around me, and I want to get my guys used to all the noise. I know that a lot of them like the attention, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to win." So he kind of gave, I don't want to say like kind of the political answer of just like, "Oh, I'm the answer with no substance essentially, but it felt like it was a matter of I'm going to try and deflect this by using my status as an NFL Hall of Famer, one of, the great defensive players of our time, to deflect this media attention and say like, oh, we don't care about the media. Dion may not, but I think there's a lot of players in that Colorado program that probably can't handle that media pressure, that aren't used to handling that media pressure. And I don't think he's doing the best job in preparing them for that exposure, because it's frankly exposure that's unwarranted and that he and his sons have brought on to this program. And because it seems like it's all about him and his sons, and there is a culture issue there to the degree of where there's hazing and all of that. I'm not sure about. I'm not a legal expert. Obviously, that would require kind of an investigation, perhaps internally, perhaps externally, but it there's definitely a culture issue there, just from the naked eye. And I think it is getting some national attention, but I think once Colorado starts losing and the wheels start falling off, should they this year, and should they not go on some win streak, which I doubt. They really didn't fix all that many issues regarding, the transfer portal and their offensive line, um, and everything of that sort. And overall, I think Colorado is going to get exposed this season, both on the field and off the field. So,
Interesting. Do you, knowing that we all kind of are in agreement here, with Colorado probably not going to do much better than they did last season, even though for some reason the rest of college football fans think they're going to do something.
yeah.
What do you think that this means for Dion and his coaching career post Shadur and Shiloh and Travis Hunter leaving the college football landscape?
There's a lot of people that say he's going to make the jump to the NFL. I think that's preposterous, especially if he continues losing at Colorado. Um, when you bring on all that talent, that does say something. But if you can't develop said talent and you can't keep talent around, because I mean, they had a mass exodus last year, and I know they brought a bunch of players in from the transfer portal. They had the biggest transfer portal class in 2024. What you do with that talent says more than what kind of talent you can bring in. And I don't think Dion is enough of a developer to be at the college football level. So maybe he does make the jump to the NFL because those guys are already developed. Those guys they do already have the experience of being in front of the media, the on the field, off the field decorum. Um, so maybe someone in the NFL does give him a chance, but especially if he keeps losing, there's a possibility he's out of coaching and a possibility that he may even get blacklisted. And, obviously his Hall of Fame status does matter there, but I don't think Hall of Fame status is going to matter as much should he be known now as kind of a loser coach that doesn't develop players and that kind of gets his players into trouble due to the culture issues that his program suffers. So, we'll see what happens with him. I think there's a lot to be talked about with him as normal, but
I
like
mean,
I said, I think Colorado's going to get exposed.
given track record and just his overall vibes, he's gonna jump ship at some point and just like leave
Yeah.
it in somebody else's hands, and like outwardly going to feel like he gets out unscathed, but everybody's just gonna have this whole like notion of Dion from here on out. It's like you don't really want him around your program, so.
Exactly. I mean, it goes back to kind of Les Miles' tenure at Kansas is kind of what I compare it to. Les Miles was brought on to Kansas as this savior of the program that, was in the dumpster fire for a decade. And he ended up plunging it more into the dumpster fire and ended up getting accused of sexual misconduct and all these things that brought negative attention to his program, to the Kansas program, really set them back. And yeah, they got Lance Leipold now, they're successful now, but that came because of a complete regime change, of a complete slate cleaning. So I think post Dion at Colorado, there's going to be a cleaning of the house, um, especially should he leave it worse than he found it. So I don't think him leaving necessarily matters too much in the grand scheme of things. He's going to leave it worse than he found it, but I think if Colorado wants to do the right thing, they do a complete slate clean after Dion.
Do you think
So
that there will be another college institution that doesn't care about the hazing, very much like Urban Meyer's situation, doesn't care about any of the hazing or anything that comes out, and takes him on? Because one of the reasons why everybody was so infatuated with Dion, especially in his first season without ever having played to win or lose a game, was that he created millions of dollars worth of revenue based on his name alone, and he's still continuing to do so. Do you think that there is a large institution that has the infrastructure to hide these things, like in Alabama, like a Texas, a UCLA? Do you think one of those, a top school with that sort of infrastructure, could take Dion in, that would be able to get him literally any talent that he wanted and cover up any misconducts that could be taking place?
it's possible. It certainly is. But like I said, it kind of goes back to that development thing because he hasn't really developed players. That's why he had that mass exodus from his program, and that's why he's trying to cover it up with bringing on marquee talent. Um, and I think at another institution that does have that development, that does have that kind of, I guess, structure that will help him, could bring him on. But I think in the end, nobody brought Urban Meyer on other than the Jaguars, and we all know how that worked out. Um, I think there's just too many red flags there, and I think teams have had kind of a learning experience with bringing on coaches like that, um, which is why I'm still amazed that Bobby Petrino is coaching. But that being said, maybe Dion's the next Bobby Petrino. Who knows?